Dr. Chong, how are you?
Keith, I'm good. Happy to be here.
You're happy. I am so grateful to have you here. I mean, words can't even describe how I feel right now to have you here on set to do this podcast with us.
Well, I'm honored. I mean, you gave me the invitation. I thought, really? He wants to talk to me?
Do I want to talk to you? So before I start acknowledging and sharing how I feel about you, let's have you introduce yourself to the audience, like who you are, what your title is, and what you do at Mayo.
Well, I'm a consultant in neuroradiology and neurological surgery at Mayo Clinic, which means I'm a doc, and I take care of patients with brain aneurysms and strokes and stuff like that.
Wow. So what would be a typical day for you?
Patient would come in to the emergency room, unfortunately, with either the worst headache of their life, in which case they probably have an aneurysm, or they'll come in not being able to move one side of their body or not being able to speak, in which case they may have a stroke. And the team will have at it. We'll make them better.
Wow. And you know what I love what you said? The team will have at it. We will make them better.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, partnership, that's something that is part of your vocabulary, how you see other people that you work with, and at a large extent, people on the planet.
Entirely. Life is a team game, actually.
Wow.
Right.
So, you know, this whole way that you have, and I think the audience, and we just started, can kind of get a sense of your energy. That's what I was struck with when I first met you. But preceding our lunch appointment that day, I had already heard a great deal about you. I mean, a great deal. So let me tell you what was said.
Okay.
You're gonna love his energy. He's loving kindness. He is in his essence. He's moving. And when I met you, I had an opportunity. Oh, they also said he happens to be brilliant too.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, they said all this. This is the word on the street. And so when I met you, and you were coming in your scrubs, and you met me in the foyer as you enter Mayo Clinic, and we were walking. This is what I remember. And I walked the halls with a lot of people. Your presence to everyone around you, whether it was colleagues that we work with at Mayo, or it was patients. So we were walking into the new building, and as you walking in, going to lunch, you may not even remember this because it's so like breathing to you, but it's something that I observed. There was this couple that were coming out, and they were seniors, and she was pushing who may have been her husband out the door. And you said, Keith, hold on a second. And the first thing you said to them, how you guys doing today? How are we treating you here at Mayo? Are we taking care of you folks? That's what you said. I mean,
This man is present all the time.
I mean, completely a servant to others. I mean, you're a doctor. I mean, and there is no sense of ego, no identity tied to your profession. I mean, at your core, and I witnessed it, is service.
Well, thank you. I mean, there's not much I can say, but thank you. I mean, that is, first of all, I mean, that's who we should be, I think, and certainly that's who we are at Mayo Clinic.
No
And,
doubt.
you know, so if that's who you are, come work at Mayo Clinic. We need talent.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this leads me to my second question. So I was not a person who was born with this spirit of service. So as I've said on other podcasts, my mom kind of beat it into me, not physically, but or literally, but figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
Like she saw someone who was going to be self-centered, who only really looked out for himself, and so she made my brother and I go to assisted living facilities for seniors, and we contributed at our church, and we volunteered. So she, after a while, it just became who I was,
Of course.
But had that not happened, had the early intervention not happened, I would be a very selfish person. How did you become this way? Were you born this way? Was it developed over time? Did you have examples in your life, your parents? How did you become this servant to others?
Yeah, I think it's kind of all of the above, Keith. I really think that we are all born that way. I think we all have the capacity to be all those things, all those wonderful things that you've just accredited me with. I mean, and
I witnessed it.
Well, I think that we're all born that way. And what we do with that in life is often determined by the environment we're in. So it's a little bit of nature and nurture, if you want to take the science approach. I think that the people we surround ourselves with either help us be that way or they don't help us be that way.
Right.
And I think, excuse me, the key there is the people that we surround ourselves with, because it's a choice.
Yes.
It's an active choice. You were fortunate to have a mother who
Yes.
instilled those values in you. Excuse me, I was very fortunate to have many examples in my life beyond my parents and my grandparents to do the same thing. But as we grow older, we make choices in our life.
Right.
We become more independent, and I think if you choose to surround yourself with people like that and surround yourself with organizations and environments like that, then you grow, everyone grows around you, and in the end, you end up giving back to your community.
Right.
But it's the community that you choose to surround yourself with.
So have you been intentional in your choices of who your circle of friends are? You know, obviously your parents, the family you're born into, but after that, you know, you get to kind of choose your friends and the people that you teach and allow to teach you. So were you conscious and intentional in your choice?
I think so. I think that's the way we grow, to make conscious decisions.
Yes.
You know, if we wander through life without a direction, with whatever you want to call it, an ultimate concern, a philosophy, a prime directive, whatever, if you wander through life without that, you really don't have the presence of mind and the presence of body to make those decisions. And I think you have to choose those decisions.
Absolutely.
Every once in a while you wander off. It's never easy. And when you do, if you get lost, you go back to, well, where was I originally heading?
Right. Yeah. So who were one or two people that have made a difference in your life, you know, through your childhood to present, or maybe even today, that are really like helping you stay on that path of service, being peaceful, contributing?
Yeah.
Who's done that for you?
Well, I think it started with my parents and definitely my grandparents as well. They were both also very, very nurturing people. I think in our family, you know, I spoke to the issue of primary concerns, values, whatever. My family really put a huge amount of weight on knowledge and experience and skills and hard work. And how do you turn that into compassion? How do you turn that into sharing with your family? And then, obviously, how do you turn that into making your community better, your life better, the world better?
So what's interesting about that is I think a lot of families are good intention, and so they stress the importance of education and acquiring knowledge, developing a skill set. But what I love about what your family has done, what your family did with you, and I'm sure you're doing this with your own family, is you extended beyond that. And it's, okay, how this new skill set, this talent that you were born with and that you've nurtured, the knowledge that you've acquired, how do you, you know, share that? You know, how do you, you know, apply it for the greater good? And they taught you that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think I want to make an important, an important distinction between knowledge and education.
Please.
I love education, don't get me wrong. But knowledge is much more encompassing. Education, it gives you some knowledge.
Right.
But knowledge, whether you're talking about your skill set, whether you're talking about your craft, or whether you're talking about just what's going on out there, you know, knowledge about your body, knowledge about your mind, knowledge about your health.
Preach.
You know, you need
Preach.
that knowledge is all encompassing, and what you do with that knowledge, you couple that knowledge with hard work, and you develop skills.
Wow.
And you use those skills to build. You use those skills to share. You use those skills to teach. And we had a conversation just leading up into this what you're setting up, where we talked about, well, how can I make a difference? How can I help people do certain things? And I think that's where your legacy comes in. You can pass the skill set on. And I think young growing up, my parents were awesome at that. My grandfathers were both interesting people, probably not by most conventional standards. One was a physician of traditional Chinese medicine. The other was an enforcer in a gambling house, but they were both martial artists.
Right.
And they both were different sides of the same coin.
Right.
And, you know, it's a great example of what you can do with a skill set. You know, can you use that same skill set to help others,
Right.
help yourself, help your family?
Right.
Or can you use that skill set for something else? And it's an active choice.
It is an active choice. No question. Wow. Okay. Yeah, your grandparents played a big role in your life. What would you say are some of the most significant lessons or experiences that you've had that are still paying dividends today for you?
Yeah, before I answer that, I want to make a point that I think was well, it is a lesson that I learned. And
Okay.
the lesson is that we really do better when we're much more diverse in terms of our thinking and in terms of our experiences.
Right.
So if you have a very, very open mind, you'd be surprised what you can learn and from what sources you would learn. I'll give you an example. So, not too many people know this. I'll share this with you.
Do tell.
I worked as a cowboy on a ranch, and it was kind of a mid-career crisis where I
Okay.
just decided, you know what, I'm getting a little bit tired of what I'm doing. I need something fresh.
Okay. Were you practicing medicine?
I was practicing medicine at the time. Yeah, people
Nice.
thought you are crazy.
I love it.
Yeah. So I was practicing medicine, and I decided I was going to leave my academic job, and I was going to take a job in the community. I was still pragmatic. I needed to pay the bills,
Right.
put kids through college,
Yes.
that kind of stuff. So I took a job that allowed me to work just enough to take care of business, and all the other time I worked on a ranch as a cowboy. And I mean, I'm lucky I'm sitting here because I should have died. I could have killed myself.
Now, did you have any experience?
None at all.
None.
None at all.
This
None
is
at all.
better.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the point, is that out of this desire for knowledge, and knowledge can be an experience, out of this desire for knowledge and experiences and breadth, I probably learned as much about taking care of patients as I did in medical school.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, okay, so like, tell me, like, what are some of the things you learned?
Operating on cows? No, I'm just
Yeah.
teasing you. No, it was nothing medical at all.
Right.
It was really just working with these men and women who just have this incredible presence
Right.
and awareness of what's going on around them. Because number one, it's necessary for the work they do. It's a dangerous environment.
Absolutely.
Number two, it's necessary to get the job done. And number three, it makes it much more enjoyable.
Absolutely.
These people are present. They're present. They're looking around. They're aware. You may be having a conversation with them on a
Right.
horse, or you may be saying nothing, but they're aware.
They're right there.
And learning to listen, learning to read what's happening in your environment is a skill set that we need every day, but it's a skill set that's essential when we're taking care of patients as well. A lot of times patients, they come in, they have a problem, and that's not really their problem.
Right. Yeah.
And so figuring out what really is the problem is the challenge.
It's a challenge.
Right.
Do you enjoy that part of the work?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think
It requires you to be present.
requires you to be present, and that's hard to do in our life every
Right.
day.
It
There's so
is.
many distractions.
So
and
many.
There's so many driving forces that we can't really control, and so you need to learn how to work with those.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you can take it as a metaphor. I mean, for example, if you're working 1,000 head of cattle that really aren't going to do what you want them to do, you need to figure out, well, how do you lead them in this direction?
Right.
And how do you do so in a safe, calm way?
And how do you lead them in that direction? because like you said, you can
Trade secret.
Okay. But you're doing that in your practice with the team that you work with,
Yeah.
At Mayo Clinic, with your family.
Yeah.
Like you learning to lead peacefully, right?
I think a lot of it is what you're communicating to people, and not necessarily what you're telling them.
Right.
You know, if you're listening, and if you're aware, and you can read, hey, this person is not really angry; they're just afraid.
Right.
You know, or this person is not really brave; they're really scared.
Right.
Then that gives you the idea of what tool to pull out of your bag
Yes.
to handle the situation at hand. And I think that's a metaphor for life.
Absolutely.
Right, Keith? I mean, if you're aware and you're listening and you're taking it in, then it's much easier to help others. But, you know, you got to help yourself first. So that's
Absolutely.
the other point I want to make, is that you really have to be You have to have a healthy mind, a healthy body, and you have to be centered.
Right. You know, one of the things, speaking to lessons and experiences that kind of shape, how you show up today, talking about my mom again, she really played a big role in that because I think it's important for, at least from my experience as a child, that she forced me to do things because I was, people often talk about, Keith, you have a strong work ethic, like you don't need to be asked to do anything, like you don't complain about what you're doing, even if the task isn't glamorous. And I don't, and I have one person to thank for that, and that's my mom, because I was inclined to be lazy. There's no way to kind of sugarcoat it, but that's who I was going to be. And and I look at friends who are that way, and I'm so grateful that I'm not. I mean, not a judging or comparing way, just being grateful for what she had me do. But speaking to your point about diversity of experiences, one of the things that we did we worked on a farm, and the whole time hated it. But that's taught me the work ethic. So when I went into the Marine Corps, it was already there. She taught me about doing things for people outside of myself, another experience. With all these different experiences that I had, I disliked doing all of them at the moment. It wasn't until I got much older that I started to, and coming out here to Arizona, I was in the Marine Corps, I was stationed out here, was upset about coming to Arizona. Like, I don't know anyone in Arizona, I'm from the South, I hear it's 100 degrees out there and people die, That was as much as I knew about Arizona, and it wasn't favorable. And there were other prejudices that I brought into it because it was at a time right before the MLK holiday. Arizona was one of the last holdouts as a state to observe the holiday. So I had all these other things that were in my way of being open to Arizona. So consequently, when I came out here, the first 3 or 4 years were miserable. They were miserable, and I was suffering the whole time. So Arizona, back in the early 90s, was 110, 120 degrees in the summer. It's still 110 degrees in the summer, but I love Arizona. So what changed? The weather didn't change.
Right.
I changed, and what I've learned was the more I say yes to the experience of life, no matter how it shows up, I say yes to it, accept it, there's no more suffering. Like, I feel empowered to make choices and experience it in a way that is peaceful, that's informed, that's a benefit to me. Is it the same with you?
Absolutely. I think what you're describing is very much related to what we just talked about, diversity of ideas, diversity of thought, and acceptance, and knowledge. I mean, knowledge is not just acquired knowledge from a book, which we all assume it is. Knowledge is acquired knowledge through experience. Yes. Your experiences here in the Marine Corps, your experiences every day in your life. And I think to echo a point we made earlier is that if you are receptive, there are lessons to be learned every day from everyone around you and from your environment. And it may not be an environment you choose to be in. It may not even be someone that you choose to be with at that moment in time.
Right.
But there is an experience to be had there, and from that experience, there's always something that you can take in to your life, use it the way you think you need to use it, and then pass that experience on, that knowledge on. So, through those experiences, you'll become more skillful.
Right.
You'll learn how to deal with situations that perhaps you hadn't dealt with before, or you dealt with poorly before.
Yeah, so when you came back, from that experience, and how long did you do it?
4 years.
4 years on the ranch.
Yeah.
Okay, were you married at the time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, yeah.
how'd that go? How'd that conversation go?
Well, I was fortunate my wife was into the experience.
Oh, that's awesome. You had a partner. Through and through.
Yeah. So she came to the ranch with me every day.
Oh,
and she
how
worked
cool
every
is
day.
that?
The women on that ranch worked just as hard as the men.
No doubt.
Yeah, so we had a great time.
So when you returned back to practicing medicine full time, how are you different?
Well, I came to Mayo Clinic.
Nice.
And, so that was one huge difference. I came to the desert. I
Yes.
never lived in the desert like you. And I got some good advice. I moved here in November. They said,
Great
do
advice.
not move here in July.
Great advice.
So I eased myself into that pain. But I think, it's interesting that it was a different environment for me, and certainly a different practice for me.
Right.
but it was a positive environment that I chose to be in.
Right.
So here's another point that I think I've learned, another little pearl, is that we choose to be where we are and who we're with. And if you want to be better, if you want to be whatever, to be right?
Right? I appreciate that. Thank you.
Ever.
I love it.
If you want to rejuvenate yourself,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, then you need to choose the right environments to be in. And we don't always have the ability to choose, like
Right.
you said, but you do have the ability to choose your frame of mind and how
Right.
you approach it.
Absolutely.
You know, and if you're receptive and you're open and you choose the beauty as opposed to the ugliness,
Right.
because there's beauty all around us every day.
Absolutely. All the time.
Right.
Every day.
Right.
You know, off camera, you were sharing about, I asked you, how does your day start? And you said, you know, well, I did one of my daily rituals, which is Tai Chi, and I definitely want to talk about that.
Mhm.
But, you know, it's a warm day here. It'll probably be 100 degrees here in Arizona today. And you showed us a picture. You showed Michael and I a picture. You want to share what you shared?
Oh,
What you showed us?
Yeah. It was a picture of a cactus flower blooming. Now, you know, you're in the desert. People think the desert is a desert, barren, ugly. But there's beauty all around us, and you just have to watch. And it just happens, I showed you a picture of a flower that was blooming, which doesn't bloom like on the East Coast or the North when it's warm.
Right.
It doesn't bloom when it's light or dark. It blooms when it chooses
It's to bloom, right?
And you just have to be there,
For that.
and you have to be looking. And if we're busy, or
Yeah.
we're busy doing something, or we're busy exercising, we're busy trying to get someplace,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't take the moment and just look, it's there in front of
Yeah,
you.
you miss it all the
Yeah,
time.
that ugly cactus
It's
for
beautiful.
1 minute is beautiful.
That's right.
Yeah, and so take it in,
Absolutely.
enjoy it.
I love it. So, you know, what I like to learn, like I'm a student, and our first conversation, I was sitting there on the edge of my seat just taking in everything that you were sharing because, like, again, when I see someone peaceful, they're my teacher. And so you are my teacher. So I want to know, what are the things that you do on a daily basis, your daily rituals that help you be your best?
Well, I think the main principle is that you really have to, your mind has to be healthy and your body has to be healthy. So my daily rituals center around my mind being healthy and my body being healthy. It's as simple as that. And Tai Chi is a vehicle for me. We've had interactions over Tai Chi before, and I'm going to start with people have this big misconception that Tai Chi is something for old people to do in the park.
Can I say something just for a second?
Sure.
Okay. So I had the great honor of coming to one of Dr. Chong's Tai Chi classes at the medical school yesterday. And I came in with an open mind, and what helped with that was, he's peaceful, and I want to be peaceful. He's walking loving kindness. So whatever he's doing, like, sign me up. And so I'm in the class, and you haven't even taught us one movement, and I was already all in because I could just tell by the rise and fall of your voice that this is exactly what I want in my life to help me cultivate being present. And so I talked to one of my friends this morning. It's like, I texted him because we talk on a regular basis, talking about your circle of friends. This is the guy who's also in the path of really growing and being his best. And so we share a lot with each other. And we were talking, and he did a yoga class this morning, and I said to him, I was like, man, I did a Tai Chi class yesterday. It was incredible, like phenomenal. And so he's like, dude, he's like, call me, like we got to talk about this. This is all through text. So we talked, and we were having this conversation about it. And I said, he's like, so yeah, I did Tai Chi. He's like, so you mean the stuff that you see old people doing in the park? I said, let me tell you this. Those old people will mess you up. Don't sleep on this. Don't sleep on it. Like, and you gave us a little demonstration of how it can be utilized as a martial art. And so for me, it touches on all those things, being present, the flow of it, you know, as well as the martial arts aspect of it, the fitness part of it. So I just had to share with you, my friend is like, he's intrigued and interested.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since you started off with it's a martial art, I think one of the things, So Chinese martial arts are generically known as Kung Fu.
Okay.
The word Kung Fu actually has no reference to martial art at all. It means great skill through hard work. We've talked about skill in this conversation.
Yes, we have.
Great skill through hard work. Your cooking can have Kung Fu. Your writing can have Kung Fu. Your art can have Kung Fu. The other thing that I'm fond of saying is that students of martial arts are warriors, they're scholars, and they're monks. And the warrior side doesn't necessarily bring to mind what most people would think. You can be a peaceful warrior,
Right.
and be a warrior. Scholar, it's obvious, it's knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Being aware and learning from your environment. And then the monk part of it is also somewhat perplexing to most people, but that is servitude or giving back. Giving to your students, giving to your community, any of those things, and all of the above. So as a student of martial arts doing Tai Chi, the nice thing about Tai Chi is as a morning ritual is, for me, it's a vehicle to get my mind in the right place and to get my body in the right place. And I fully have learned through the hard way that on a daily basis, if we are going to wake up and be better than we were the day before, do a better job than we did yesterday, help more people, be more productive, that you have to have a clear mind.
Yes.
And you have to have a focus, a goal, a direction that you want to head. You can't have noise in your head. You have to be peaceful and calm. That's the only time when you can be aware of what's around you. And you can be all that, but if your body is not healthy, it doesn't let you be all that. So you have to focus on your own health and your own well-being. And then you have to have, I think, a very good balanced relationships, because they can be very distracting on a daily basis if they're not. If you're a loved one and you are not in harmony, that's not going to make your day go well.
No.
Right?
No.
And you can speak to that.
No, if I come in with an aneurysm and your relationship, my doctor's relationship is rocky, and he's bringing it there.
Right.
I want him working on that.
Right. But I suggest to you that the most important relationship is the relationship you have with yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because if you're not feeling it, if you're not peaceful, if you're not healthy, if you're in pain and your mind is distracted, and you don't have self-confidence,
Right.
then how are you going to have a meaningful life and help other people?
Or have a meaningful relationship.
Right. So I think the daily ritual, as you ask it, is something that I do that really kind of calms me, focuses me, clears my mind,
Right.
makes me more aware of what's going on, being able to see that desert bloom in the morning, instead of thinking, well, what am I going to be doing in the car? What am I going to be doing when I get to the hospital?
Right.
And also on a daily basis when you're not working. I mean, part of that awareness is engaging in conversations like we're having.
Yeah. There
You know,
is.
being aware that there's something about this guy, Keith, that you really need to listen to, because he's got it going.
Thank
He's
you.
aware, he's directed,
Thank you.
he's focused, but he's also calm and he's peaceful. As much as he admires me for what
I
he's
do.
been so gracious to tell me, this is what you are too. And so I think if we can all strive for that, one of those goals,
Right.
and then just add another one to that, and add another one to that. Let's work on clearing our mind today. Let's work on fixing our body tomorrow.
Right. I mean, you take great care, and I can see how Tai Chi does both with you in terms of practicing that care, that self-care with your mind and your body. We had lunch, and there were a lot of choices in the cafeteria to have for your meal, but you obviously chose something healthy. So that's intentional too about how you eat and what you put in your body.
Yeah,
So
that's the intent that we talked about, right? I mean, I think we make choices every day,
Right.
and that's just one of the choices that we made that day.
Right.
And in the end, those choices make the determination of what your day was like.
Absolutely. And then over time, your life.
Right.
So how do your rituals, Dr. Chong, help you both professionally and personally? So you talk about what you do in the morning in terms of Tai Chi and your mindset and how you train yourself to be peaceful, to be present. how does it help you be, a better doctor? How does it help you also at home be a
Yeah.
better spouse, be
Yeah.
a better father?
I think our days, as I said earlier, are kind of filled with a lot of distractions and challenges.
Absolutely.
And they can be unpleasant. And I think the way we choose to make them more pleasant is to start the day off and reset who we are every day, who we are mentally, who we are physically. And take that with us to work each day, take that with us to whatever we do each day. And then the other choice that we make is when faced with a situation that perhaps is not a situation you want to be in. You can make a choice in that situation.
Right.
There are many choices you can't make because you're constrained by, I got to be in Arizona. I'm roll call, I'm in the
Right.
military. I got to be there.
Right.
But if you make the choice to learn something from that day, if you make the choice to listen to someone say something that day,
Right.
then your day's going to be better. And if you make the choice to eat something healthy that day, then you're going to feel energetic, you're going to feel calm,
Right.
you're not going to be hyped up, and you're going to have a good sleep that night. And we haven't even talked about meditation. That's a huge subject.
And that's part of your ritual too.
Right, but I'm going to simplify things for the audience that says, meditate. I can't meditate. I got too much going on. I can't
Right.
shut this off. Sleep is the best form of meditation.
Preach.
Sleep is the
Preach.
best form of meditation.
I'm committed to it.
We all know how to sleep. We all may not be able to know how to meditate. We may not all be able to know how to control our bodies or our mind, but we can sleep. And really, that's the earliest form of regenerative medicine,
It's right there.
is regenerating your body each night, getting good rest.
So for the people, like I have a digital curfew, and I started doing this a couple of years ago, in which an hour before bedtime, I shut off all electronics, and I want to completely darken my room, and I go through a gratitude exercise every night to put me in the right space in which I want to go to sleep. For people that say, hey, listen, you know what, 5-6 hours of sleep, that's the max I can do, that's all my body needs, I just can't sleep any longer, what do you say to that?
Okay, now the scientist in me is going to come out.
Please.
So I challenge you all to do an experiment. If you think 4, 5, 6 hours sleep is good enough, and you're already doing that, then the challenge is take 2 weeks of your life, only 2 weeks, and every day sleep for 8 hours.
Okay.
And then tell me at the end of 2 weeks whether you're more focused, whether you do a better job at work with less effort,
Mm-hmm.
whether your workouts are easier, whether you're a nicer person.
I like that one a lot.
I mean, that's what we call an experiment in
Right.
science. You've done the control. You've lived your life on 4 to 6 hours. Now do the opposite condition.
Absolutely. You and I have the great privilege and honor of serving, medical students and residents and fellows at the Mayo Clinic. They have some very busy lives. So I often talk to experienced physicians and healthcare professionals like yourself who have done it for a bit of time. And I ask them, I say, listen, what do you wish you would have done back in your college years or med school? And they say, you know what? For the ones who did it, it's like, I'm so glad that I continue to be healthy and exercise. The other one's like, you know what? I had this story that I'm too busy to exercise. And what I found is that as you continue on this career path, you don't get less busy. You get even busier. So if you don't have that ritual of taking care of yourself with the self-care, you're not going to be operating at your best throughout. Studying through, your best effort, producing the best results for yourself. So what would be your message in terms of daily rituals for, students, residents, and fellows, or people in general, about the importance of exercise, eating right, cultivating the mindset, being present? What would you say to that? How important is it now?
I love your term ritual.
Thank you.
Because too often we use the term routine. This is my routine, or this is my diet, or this is my program.
Right.
I mean, ritual in itself is a great word because it implies it's something that you do regularly, and it's something that you do to take care of yourself, usually. And it's something that's really basic and elemental to us as humans.
Right.
And if we adopt exercise as a ritual, if we adopt eating well as a ritual, if we adopt kindness and compassion
Yes.
and awareness as rituals, believe it or not, that's a very selfish thing. But I guarantee you that that selfishness is going to spill out. It's going to just affect people around you. And it's fascinating to me because I think good begets good.
I do too.
You know, if you see something good as opposed to seeing something bad or ugly or evil, you take that child, and I'll tell you exactly what that child is going to gravitate to.
Right.
So we talked at the beginning of this interview about, you know, were you born with this? Did someone teach you this?
Right.
That is what's innate in us. These rituals, we've lost the ability as we grow older to maintain these rituals. So I would tell the medical student, you're right. Just like you said, Keith, you're not going to get any more time. Your day's not going to get longer. It's definitely not going to get easier. But, you know, if you adopt this as a ritual, it will give you the tools, the skills, the
Yes.
kung fu, the great skill through hard work.
Right.
It'll give you the skill to just get done what you choose to get done. And then
Right.
that's all that's left is the choice to do something that is good.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So my last question for you is, what would you like your legacy to be?
Yeah, I think we've been talking about this the whole time, and we just haven't even put a label on it.
Right.
As legacy, right? I think this we started by saying that, you know, acquiring knowledge, acquiring experiences was a very important thing to me. And growing up, that was a
Yes.
value instilled in me. We talked about using that to acquire skills and then passing those skills on. So the legacy that you get to doesn't happen overnight, right?
Right.
You focus on yourself to make sure you're balanced. Then you focus on doing something meaningful. And then eventually you'll get to the point, there's a lot of steps in
Right,
between,
right, I
but you'll
love
get
it.
to the point of legacy. And I think the legacy would be sharing the knowledge and the skill. Because no one's going to remember your name, maybe your
Right.
family, maybe your kids, but your students aren't necessarily going to remember
Right.
who you are. Mayo Clinic's not going to remember who I am in 50 years, but a little bit of me will live through every one of the students
Right.
that I could share some of this knowledge and skill set with.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Dr. Chong, thank you for a fantastic. Did I say he was peaceful? Did I say that you could just feel that loving kindness and brilliance just radiate? I mean, thank you so much.
Right
Great
back
show.
at you.
Thank you, my
Right back
friend.
at you.
Thank you.
Yeah.